I've got my daughter in the studio today. She's just published a book called A Glimpse Through the Window of My Soul that she was able to extract from a sermon I preached, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. And she has published her first book. She's married to Captain Isaiah Lafleur, who is the chief technician of the Manning Report and the technical things that we do. He gets the Manning Report out every day. And she's got 3 wonderful children, Zipporah, Glory, and a son named Isaiah the second. And so she's here in the studio with us today, and we want to spend just a few moments talking about this book that she is publishing. And Precious, how does it feel to be an author, that to actually have put something down and been published and will be around for quite some time? What's that feel like?
Exciting.
I bet it does.
Yeah.
Now, you're a mother of 3 children. And you're part of the praise team at the Outlaw World Missionary Church, and you do a plethora of other things. You work in the school. Your husband is the busiest man this side of the Mississippi River, and you have to care for the children. How did you find time to write a book?
When the children slept at night.
That can't be very long.
No.
So that means you're writing for like 20 minutes per night, and then the babies are back up again. And they're all babies, by the way. But now, this book, A Glimpse Through the Window of My Soul, is really a collection of poems. When I went through the book, what I discovered, to answer my own question, is that this obviously was very easy for you because it was not a literary stretch. That is, you just wrote what you feel and what you believe and what has really been your spiritual journey. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So tell us a little bit about my life's journey through the art of poetry. Why, how long has that been a part of the process of who you are?
Well, if you read the book, it's really a collection of things that you've preached, that lessons that I have found dear to me.
Okay.
And I found it interesting that sometimes when you're preaching, I could hear my father's voice because he used to tell us the same things. So what really made me want to write the book was, I think I've told you at one point when I was pregnant with Glory, I was in a clinic and there was a young lady next to me. She was Hispanic and she looked like she was in her mid-20s, and she had 3 children, and she told me she was pregnant with her next one. So she asked me if I was going to keep my baby, and I said yes. And she said, I'm getting an abortion, and she couldn't believe she was getting one. And she was speaking in Spanish, and I told Elder Manning some time ago that because I didn't use my Spanish frequently, that I lost some of it. So what I was able to gather from her story was her husband lived in Puerto Rico, and she went to visit him, and when she came back, she found out she was pregnant. And when she told him, he said, well, we don't have any funds to care for another child. So that's why she was getting the abortion. And I think I let my shyness overtake me, and I was afraid, I don't know whether fear is the correct spirit that I was under, but I didn't speak out. And I felt so bad because she kept looking at me from the time that we were there from across the room. And I was praying that she would come over and we can talk some more, and I would be able to minister to her. So I decided, because I missed my chance with her, and I prayed that something happened while she was on the table and the Lord would just speak to her, and maybe something would happen that she didn't do it. So I thought that this is my way just to get the word out. Every word that I hear here and the truth that is always presented, I know that others, they have to hear it.
You know, Precious, the event that I talked about a couple of years ago and continue to talk about to some degree now, of Elizabeth and I being in that McDonald's restaurant and that mother with those 3 children.
Yes.
And I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. I could have gone over and, as I say, purchased meals. But as a result of that, the Mother Couture Breakfast Club was born. You didn't do anything, and you could have. And I sensed the way you tell this event that young woman was reaching out to you because it was obviously the young man in Puerto Rico who told her to do that, but I don't think she really wanted to do it. And you had an opportunity maybe to save that child, and you didn't do it.
Yes.
So this book is an offering to the Lord that would steer other women in the right direction. I relate to that so readily to what happened. But you're right about things in the book. The World Through Your Eyes, my cross-country experience. We drove across America. And you said some things in this book about Utah and about the desert, about Las Vegas. Was that the first time you traveled across America, and was the first time for you to really get a sense of what America looks like?
Yes, and I love when my father used to drive to Brooklyn, which is the furthest I've ever been. The long ride from the Bronx to Brooklyn. I used to love that car ride because it was long, and I get to look at out the window and look at the scenery. So that was just a great experience for me.
You've also written about the Atla and what that means, and I don't know if people really understand this vision that God has given. In fact, I think it's beyond a lot of people's comprehension. But you seem to know exactly what God is saying about this vision of righteous men, and you even talked about leaders and husbands. Tell us a little bit about how you perceive what God is doing in the call for Atla.
Well, God has called 50,000 righteous men to live for the Lord, to be leaders of the home church and community, to own businesses and banks and corporations. And what I understand when I read the Bible is that the men are supposed to be the lawgivers of the home and the ones who would chastise the children. And without that, women have to step into that role to do that, and that's not really, they're not equipped to do that. They're supposed to be the nurturers, the one who makes sure that there's inventory in the house, and they'll tell the husband what they need in the house, and then he provides the money, and then she will go out and buy the things for the children. But now she has to do both roles, which makes it hard on her. And this is in Black America, 70 to 80% of the women have to do both roles. And to some degree, the government has become Black women's sugar daddy. So, Precious, going back to this book, which is the title is from a sermon I preached, Look Into the Window of Your Soul, and to discover exactly who it is that you are. And but this book is full of such truth. I would recommend that anybody who wants to find their own way and know the truth would purchase this book, and we're going to tell you how you can do that in a few moments. But you've stated now, as a young Black woman, married to a young Black man, and you all were married here in the church. You've raised your children in the church. Captain Lafleur wooed you with a special kiss, and y'all got married, and now y'all have 3 children. I watched y'all walk away last night with your 3 children that's growing in this church. I felt very proud as a father to watch y'all walk away. And another thing I noticed as well, your husband, Captain Lafleur, always carries Isaiah. All the babies have to make it on it. Glory, she got to make it on her own support. She got to make, but he's always carrying Isaiah. Have you noticed that? Yes.
What's your prayer that the people would hear the truth about what's happening and the women that are out there struggling, where the government is a sugar daddy, and she has no man to carry her children or to wrap the babies up and put them in the car seat and drive home? What's your prayer? What would you say to these people out there running around with this foolishness?
My prayer is that America would just wake up, especially Black people. They're just so lost. And I've started my 2nd book, and there's a poem talking to young Black women that they've lowered their standards so low that they would just accept anything. If I feel that if women would raise their standards and say, well, I don't accept men who have pants down below their waist, who have a belt but obviously it's not tight enough, and if you're not in school and if you're not getting straight A's, then you can't have any dealings with me. the men treat them the way they allow them to be treated. And if they would just look at themselves and...
Well, what about this business of, baby's daddy, and he's got children by several other women as well, a baby's mama? Where'd that come from? I mean, that's a phenomenon over the last 10 years. That hasn't been around very long.
And they've even make music to it, and everybody dance and clap, and I just don't understand it.
Pretty wretched. So you stated we have no men, and you're right, but you also stated that who can find a leader, and I think we need to talk about that a little bit in terms of what kind of leadership we have. I think black people have leaders, and this is not just a book about black folk, it's of all folk, everybody. But we have leaders, but they're ungodly leaders, even in the church.
Yes.
Even in the church. Precious, one of the things, and I can just kind of say this with you, is that I've noticed that because of this present state of leadership and who people that are admired as leader, when a true leader comes along, people resent them. They hate a true leader and love these fake leaders. How do you interpret that? You see people respond to me.
Yes.
And they hate me, some of them, not everybody. Why do you think they do that?
I think people have been lied to for so long that when the truth is presented, all of a sudden you hate me, you don't like me, and you're doing nothing but trying to help them. I've stated to one of the young girls in the church that on Facebook, people have just shunned me, but I left a message out saying that if you're going, I'm going to continue to speak what I speak. And this is what I know, and I will continue to share your videos and everything from the ministry because I know it to be true. And I gave them the opportunity to unfriend me or do whatever they want, but it's not going to prevent me from speaking that truth. And ironically, there were one or two people that agree that, there's racism still in this country, that black people are racist. And I was just glad that the Lord could use me in that way to just speak to them, and I will continue to speak.
I'm going to read a little bit about from your statements, we have no men, and then I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit about moral pollution. You're right. We live in a time when we have no men. The way that parents raise their little boys should be a sin. They don't raise them to be leaders full of honesty and integrity. Instead, it seems they seek to be the worst that they could be. They walk around with their pants hanging off their butts, whispering to young girls who are dressed like sluts. Grown men are being sheltered and fed by their mothers. At night, they go around stealing from their brothers. They have no one to tell them how to live right, except for Honorable Manning, but when they hear him, they want to curse and fight. We live in a time where men are wimpy. They don't stand for what is right. Instead, they compromise, which is what God despises. If they had wives, their wives bring home the bacon and fry it too. Men, what is wrong with you? If no one supplies you with shelter, you will have nowhere to live. To provide for your children, you have nothing to give. The Chris Garner story is an example of a real man. If a man has nothing, he does not wait for handouts, pardon me. Do you understand? That's just a segment of the poem you've written. And you've written about, well, you've taken the poem, the statements from Paul on love and celebration of life, who can find a leader. But you've also written about moral pollution. What do you mean by moral pollution?
I believe that this nation is being polluted morally. This propaganda, false propaganda that's going around about same-sex marriages and people can decide to be what sex they want, I think it's just polluting our society. And
do you foresee, Precious, that at some point, America's going to turn around, and I guess you'd have to say that Jesus is going to have to come straighten this mess out. But what we have, and a number of people have commented, when they come to this church, they see a microcosm of what our society should be like, and particularly black people. When they come in here, they don't see any of the rhetoric, any of the destruction. A lot of people say when they come in, they think they're going to see Obama signs. They don't see any of that here. It's just, they're very surprised. So obviously, there's a hope with what we're doing. And of course, with your assistance and your aid and prayers, that at least we can be the light. What do you say about that?
I agree. I remember growing up here, and I wanted to start my own law firm, and I always had that vision when I was here sitting in the pews and just listening to you preach. But when I went home, and were the projects, and I saw all the cursing and everything going on there, I just felt like there was no hope. So I understand what those people felt coming here, that this is like the utopia of what society is supposed to be.
You have written a poem also that says, I should be better, talking about yourself.
Yes.
And this is, I think, the essence of the book, because when you look into the window of your soul, you see Precious, and you see who she is, and you see how good you can be, struggling against. I want to read just a little bit about what you've written in this piece. It says, there is so much more to me, more than you can see. What will become of me? Will I ever become what God created me to be? There is so much more that I should do. Where should I begin? Me sitting here doing nothing is borderline sin. I have no desire to grin or smile, because I know that all the while I am in sin. How do I get out of it? No, you cannot help me. I am on my own. Pardon me. My actions I will never condone. I seek he who sits on the throne. I want to be left alone. Now that's just a portion of this this I should be better. Now you're preparing to go to law school.
Yes.
Your mother of 3 children, and all your children do is run. The oldest one is 6 years old. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And the youngest one is, how old is Isaiah?
He'll be 2 in the end of January.
And he's just beginning to start running.
Yes.
And grabbing me by the knees and bumping his head into my knees every time I see him. You're going to be able to make it through law school and continue to write and raise these babies?
With the help of Jesus.
And with the help of the ministry as well. We're going to do everything we possibly can to stand with you on this process. I want to call you back. Is this book on to do more interview, because we just don't have enough time here today. But we'll get you back. Now, is this book on sale at present?
Yes. You can get it at Amazon.com, BarnesandNobles.com, my website, PreciousLafleur.com. Books A Million has it, and also IndieBound.com.
Okay. All right. Well, my friends, I recommend that you get this book. This is my daughter. Well, she's my daughter spiritually, as you very well know. And she's been with me for a great number of years, and we're very proud of her for writing this book. Very few people, less than 1% of the less than 1/10 of the 1% of the people on the planet ever get published. That's even with a paper. And so it's a rare thing to be an author. And it's not a very easy thing to, and she has joined that very elite group of people on this planet and publishing her first book, A Glimpse Through the Window of My Soul, and she says she's working on the second, plus she's getting ready to go to law school. So these are the kind of young women that we're raising up here in our church and in the ministry. And she is the matron of the Vestal Virgins. And this is the kind of woman you want your daughter to be. And these are the kind of women that all women across this planet ought to be. So continue to pray for her in her journey as she raises her family, writes her next book, goes to law school, and continues to serve the Lord Jesus Christ here at this church. And again, the places that she named, barnesandnobles.com, amazon.com. You can get it at her website at Precious Lafleur, on Facebook, rather. And indie.com, I think, as well.
Yes.
Indiebooks.com as well. Thank you so very much, Precious, for coming in to share with us today.